Hi! If you've been thinking about buying a gaming PC or a graphics card lately, you've probably noticed something shocking. Prices have skyrocketed. A graphics card that cost $300 5 years ago now costs $600. A mid-range gaming laptop that was $200 is now pushing $2,000, and it's not getting better anytime soon. But here's the confusing part. People keep asking, why? What happened? Why are prices going up when technology usually gets cheaper over time? The answer is complicated, but understanding it matters. Whether you're a gamer, a content creator, a crypto miner, or just someone who needs a computer, GPU and PC prices are affecting your wallet. And they're affected by global events you might not even know about. Let me explain what's actually happening. The real story began in 2020 when COVID-19 hit. Factories shut down. Supply chains broke. Semiconductors became scarce. This wasn't just about gaming cards. This affected everything: smartphones, cars, medical equipment. Anything with a computer chip became harder to find. But here's what made it worse. As factories went offline, demand exploded. People stuck at home started gaming. Content creators started streaming. Miners started buying GPUs to mine cryptocurrency. And everyone was buying new computers because they had to work from home. Suddenly, there wasn't enough supply to meet demand. The shortage lasted for years. Prices went from affordable to absolutely insane. A graphics card would release at $400. Within hours, it would sell out. Then scalpers would resell the same card for $800. This happened repeatedly. People were paying double, triple, sometimes quadruple the official price. The chip shortage finally started easing in 2023. But here's the problem. The damage to pricing was already done. When the shortage ended, you'd think prices would drop back down, right? They didn't. Why? Because the GPU manufacturers realized something interesting. Demand was still incredibly high. People had gotten used to paying inflated prices, and the companies themselves had less competition. During the shortage, some competitors went out of business. Manufacturing capacity never fully recovered, so supply stayed tight. NVIDIA, which dominates the market, had a decision to make. They could drop prices and gain market share, or they could maintain high prices and maximize profit. They chose profit. Their new generation of graphics cards, the RTX 40 series, launched with premium pricing. The top model, the RTX 4090, costs $1,600 officially. Scalpers still sell them for $2,000 or more. AMD did something similar with their RDNA 3 series. Instead of competing on price, they competed on performance and positioned themselves as premium products. The result? Graphics cards remained expensive. And the manufacturers had no incentive to change that. Here's where it gets interesting. Between 2020 and 2022, cryptocurrency mining exploded. And the best tool for mining certain cryptocurrencies? Graphics cards. Bitcoin mining uses specialized chips called ASICs. But Ethereum mining used GPUs. Specifically, high-end NVIDIA and AMD graphics cards. At the peak, a single graphics card could earn $1,000 per month mining Ethereum. Think about that. If the card costs $600 and it makes $1,000 monthly, miners could break even in less than a month. Then it's pure profit. So what did miners do? They bought every graphics card they could find. Not one or two, hundreds. Thousands. Mining operations were literally buying entire factory shipments before gamers and creators could even place pre-orders. This created insane shortages. Retailers would restock a card Friday morning. By Friday afternoon, it was gone. All of it. Bought by miners or scalpers. When Ethereum switched to proof of stake in September 2022, mining suddenly became unprofitable. All those miners shut down their operations, and suddenly the market flooded with used graphics cards. But here's the thing. The damage was already done. The shortage had lasted so long that manufacturers didn't scale up production. They maintained premium pricing. And when used cards flooded the market, new card prices stayed inflated to compete. The next factor is geopolitical. Most semiconductor manufacturing happens in very few places on Earth. Taiwan is the most important. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, or TSMC, produces over 50% of the world's semiconductors. But Taiwan's relationship with China is increasingly tense. There's real concern that China might try to reunify Taiwan by force. If that happens, global semiconductor production would collapse. TSMC is literally the most important company on the planet for technology supply chains. This tension makes manufacturers nervous. NVIDIA, AMD, and others started stockpiling chips. They ordered more inventory than they normally would. Why? Because they wanted to hedge against the possibility of supply chain disruption. This increased demand, which kept prices high. Manufacturers didn't want to lower prices because they believed scarcity would continue. Additionally, the U.S. imposed sanctions on China. These sanctions restrict what tech can be sold to China. This affected the entire supply chain. It made manufacturing more expensive. And expensive manufacturing means expensive products. Beyond just chip scarcity, the cost of manufacturing everything went up. Labor costs increased. Energy costs skyrocketed. Shipping costs tripled compared to pre-pandemic levels. A graphics card isn't just the chip. It's a circuit board. It's cooling systems. It's power delivery. It's the case and the packaging. All of those components cost more now. Transportation costs are still elevated. Before COVID, you could ship a graphics card from Asia to Europe for a few dollars. Now it costs $20 or more. Multiply that by millions of units, and suddenly you're adding significant cost to every product. Electricity costs matter too. NVIDIA's newer cards use more power than ever. This makes them more expensive to design and manufacture. The company passes these costs to consumers. Energy prices also affect demand indirectly. People with high electricity bills might avoid buying high-power graphics cards. This shifts the entire market toward higher-end products, which manufacturers can price more aggressively. Here's something people don't talk about enough. The GPU market is consolidating. NVIDIA controls roughly 88% of the discrete graphics card market. AMD has about 12%. Intel's Arc is trying to enter, but has minimal market share. When one company controls 88% of a market, they can charge whatever they want. There's nowhere else to go. If NVIDIA raises prices, AMD might benefit slightly, but AMD can't undercut them because they also want high prices. This is why NVIDIA's strategy is so effective. They know gamers have limited options. They know content creators depend on CUDA compatibility. They know researchers need their tools. so they price accordingly. The only real competition is in the used market. People can buy previous generation cards. But NVIDIA maintains pricing on current generation products because there's no alternative. If Intel's Arc becomes competitive, things might change. But today, NVIDIA has the market locked down, and they're going to extract maximum value while they can. Something else happened that most people don't realize. Artificial intelligence and machine learning exploded. Data centers started buying graphics cards in massive quantities. NVIDIA's H100 and H200 cards are designed for AI applications. These cards are incredibly expensive. A single H100 costs around $40,000. But they're essential for training large language models like ChatGPT. Every tech company now wants to build AI capabilities. Google, Microsoft, Meta, Tesla, everyone is buying thousands of H100s. This created unprecedented demand. NVIDIA prioritizes these high-profit enterprise sales. Consumer and gaming cards become secondary. This has pushed consumer GPU production lower, which keeps prices high. The generative AI boom has also made high-end gaming cards more valuable. Because they can be repurposed for AI work, their base price increased. People with high-end cards know they can sell them or repurpose them, so they're willing to pay premium prices. Even though the acute chip shortage ended, supply chains still aren't normalized. TSMC is still dealing with capacity constraints. There are still certain types of chips that are hard to source. Memory prices also matter. NVIDIA cards need expensive GDDR6X or HBM memory. Memory manufacturers have their own supply issues. So memory costs influence GPU costs. Additionally, the supply chain for printed circuit boards, power delivery modules, and other components remains fragmented. It's cheaper and more efficient to produce everything in one place. But with geopolitical tensions, manufacturers are diversifying production to multiple countries. This increases costs. Samsung and SK Hynix, the main memory manufacturers, had their own production issues. Yields decreased. Capacity didn't increase as fast as hoped, so memory remains expensive. All of these component-level supply issues feed into the final GPU price. It's not just artificial scarcity. New graphics cards actually are more expensive to manufacture. Each generation uses a smaller manufacturing process. This is more technically difficult. Yields are lower, and the initial capital investment is massive. NVIDIA's latest cards use a 4-nanometer process. Manufacturing at this scale is incredibly complex and expensive. There are only a handful of fabs in the world that can do it. TSMC is one of them. The smaller the process, the more defects you get initially. Yields improve over time, but early in production, you're throwing away a lot of chips. This cost gets passed to consumers. Additionally, the design of modern GPUs is more complex. More transistors, more memory controllers, more advanced power management. All of this requires more engineering. And engineering costs money. So, when NVIDIA says a card costs $400 to develop and manufacture, they're probably being honest. But they're also pricing in massive profit margins on top of actual costs. Even though Ethereum mining is unprofitable, other cryptocurrencies still use GPU mining. Certain coins like Caspa, Flux, and others can still be mined profitably with GPUs. But more importantly, people buying GPUs for crypto purposes isn't the main issue anymore. The real issue is that the mentality changed. During the mining boom, graphics cards became seen as investment vehicles. Now, people remember that. If crypto prices spike again, GPU mining becomes profitable again, and people will remember how profitable it was. So, there's this underlying fear that the shortage could happen again. This uncertainty keeps prices elevated. Manufacturers don't want to overestimate demand and get stuck with inventory. So, they keep production conservative and prices high. Here's another factor. Gaming hasn't fundamentally changed how demanding it is. We're not playing games that are 10 times more intense than games from 2015. But GPU requirements keep increasing. This is called power creep. Games demand more and more, but not for gameplay, for graphics, for visual fidelity, for ray tracing, for AI upscaling. A game in 2015 could run on a $200 graphics card. A game today wants a $600 card just to run at high settings. Manufacturers have an incentive to keep power creep increasing because it encourages GPU upgrades. Additionally, gaming monitors have gotten better. 4K gaming is now standard, not luxury. High refresh rate monitors, 144 Hz, 240 Hz, became affordable. This increased the demand for powerful GPUs. But here's the key. The actual gaming experience isn't radically different. You can play the same game on a $300 card or a $1,000 card. The difference is visual settings. And visual settings beyond a certain point matter less than we think. But manufacturers have convinced us that we need the latest, most powerful card, and they price them accordingly. GPU prices affect entire computer prices. Laptop manufacturers and pre-built system builders buy GPUs at whatever prices manufacturers set. Then they mark them up even further. A laptop with an RTX 4060 might have the card cost $300 to the manufacturer. But the laptop sells for $1,400. The difference covers other components, labor, and profit. But the GPU markup is substantial. Pre-built gaming computers have similar dynamics. A graphics card that costs $600 might end up in a $2,500 computer. The total markup is often 50–100%. This is why building your own PC is cheaper than buying pre-builts. You avoid the middleman markup. But even DIY PC building is expensive because GPUs are expensive. Laptop manufacturers also have less flexibility than desktop builders. They're locked into exclusive GPU models made just for laptops. They can't shop around, so they accept whatever pricing NVIDIA and AMD dictate. Here's something counterintuitive. Modern graphics cards are more energy efficient than old ones. The RTX 4090 is only slightly more power-hungry than the RTX 2080, which launched years earlier. But performance is roughly 3 to 4 times better. This is actually good news for consumers. You can get better performance without your electric bill skyrocketing. But here's the problem. Energy efficiency made high-end cards viable for more use cases. Cryptocurrency miners can operate H100s for AI training. Content creators can run multiple render jobs. Data centers can pack more GPUs into the same space. All of this increased demand. And increased demand means manufacturers have no incentive to lower prices. Additionally, efficiency doesn't decrease manufacturing cost much. A more efficient card still requires advanced manufacturing. It still uses rare materials. It still requires exotic memory. So we get energy efficiency without the price reduction we'd expect from efficiency improvements. So what happens next? Will prices come down? The honest answer is probably not. Here's why. First, AI demand isn't going away. If anything, it's accelerating. More data centers, more AI companies, more demand for H100s and future versions. This keeps the high end of the market expensive. Second, geopolitical tensions around Taiwan and China aren't resolving. Manufacturers will continue conservatively planning for supply disruptions. This means they'll maintain premium pricing as insurance. Third, brand consolidation in the GPU market means competition isn't getting stronger. NVIDIA's dominance is increasing, not decreasing. Intel and AMD haven't successfully challenged NVIDIA's pricing power. Fourth, the generative AI revolution changed how people think about GPUs. Suddenly, a graphics card isn't just for gaming. It's an AI accelerator. It's a computing platform. This expanded market supports higher prices. The most likely scenario is that prices stabilize at current levels. Mid-range cards stay around $400, $600. High-end cards stay around $1,200, $1,600. And as technology improves, prices might come down incrementally. But the days of $200 high-performance graphics cards are probably over. If you need a graphics card or a new computer, here are some practical strategies. First, buy used. Used graphics cards from previous generations are often 30–40% cheaper than new equivalent performance. As long as they're not mining damaged, used is a legitimate option. Second, consider APUs and integrated graphics. AMD's newer processors with integrated graphics are surprisingly capable. They won't win benchmarks, but they're affordable. Third, wait for new product launches. When a new generation releases, previous generation prices drop. They don't drop as much as they used to, but there is some reduction. Fourth, look at alternative platforms. Macs with M-series chips, for example, are expensive, but offer good GPU performance for content creation. Sometimes the total system cost is competitive. Fifth, be strategic about what you buy. Do you actually need a high-end card? Most people doing regular work don't. Mid-range cards handle most tasks fine. Sixth, consider your electricity costs. A high-end card consuming 450 watts costs money to run. If you're not using it constantly, the power costs add up. The bottom line is this. Graphics card and computer prices are high because of multiple interconnected factors. The chip shortage started it. Cryptocurrency mining accelerated it. Geopolitical tensions sustained it. Enterprise AI demand supports it. And manufacturer pricing strategy locks it in. It's not one villain. It's not just scalpers or miners or manufacturers. It's a combination of global events, market dynamics, and strategic business decisions. Understanding this matters because it helps you make better purchasing decisions. You understand that prices might not come down anytime soon. You understand why certain features are expensive. You understand what value you're actually getting for your money. The GPU and computer market will eventually stabilize. Demand will normalize. New competition might emerge. Manufacturing will become more efficient. But that process takes years, not months. For now, if you need a graphics card or a new computer, buy strategically. Know what you need. Compare options carefully. And don't expect prices to crash anytime soon, because unfortunately, they probably won't.